All right, my thesis statement is, though biotechnology can change the human being in great ways post-conception to improve quality of life and make a better human, the technology should be limited to the repair or aid of the human being instead of augmentation, because the technology can lead to inequality amongst humans, dehumanization, and the unethical creation of the post-human. Humanity has always sought to advance itself, whether through knowledge, culture, religion, fitness, or social theory. It has been a constant goal to push the limits and to improve. In the last several decades, biological understanding has flourished. Understanding how the body operates and the genes that make it up have led to a whole new form of advancement. As technology philosopher Patrick Lynn puts it, we now know enough about biology, neuroscience, computing, robotics, and materials to hack the human body. Though biotechnology can change the human being in great ways post-conception to improve quality of life and make a better human, the technology should be limited to the repair or aid of the human being instead of augmentation, because the technology can lead to inequality amongst humans, dehumanization, and the unethical creation of the post-human. The true subject of this argument is any technology that is actually changing the human being itself. So, for instance, pills, which are taken orally or can be injected into the veins or tissue of the subject. That's actually changing the body chemistry of the patient. Or a form of robotics that is actually being surgically attached to the patient. While exoskeletons are a viable means of human enhancement, if there is no sort of surgical bonding to the point where the human being can easily be extracted from such technology or enhancements, then it's not really in the scope of this argument. I should also define the word enhancement for this argument. In this context, it is to improve performance, appearance, or capability besides what is necessary to achieve, sustain, or restore health. And that is a definition by bioethicist Eric Thomas Jungst. I should also introduce the opposition to this argument. Transhumanists are the ones who seek to use biotechnology to enhance human beings and make a better society. Nick Bostrom, a professor at Oxford and a philosopher, defines them as seeking opportunities for enhancing the human condition and the human organism opened by the advancement of technology. And they put their thought process as this. So we humans may lack the capacity to form realistic, intuitive understanding of what it would be like to be a radically enhanced human, a post-human, and of the thoughts, concerns, aspirations, and social relations that such humans may have. So if you take, for example, the difference between chimpanzees and humans, because of our advanced brain function, there's a whole new level of abstract thought that we kind of have in our social lives altogether. And so with that difference, they seek to make an even higher difference by using technology to improve us and make sort of a level above. So as we are above chimpanzees, they want to make the post-human a level above humans. And this is wrong for several reasons. First, there's the disparity that it creates. There are several ways in which we can enhance human beings. Some of them are what we're seeing currently now with small abuses, and some of them are issues that we're going to be facing in the future. Right now, we're facing issues with pharmacology, so drug use to enhance the human being. As Francis Fukuyama, a political scientist and author of Our Post-Human Future, writes, he focuses on two drugs specifically, Prozac and Ritalin. Prozac is an SSRI, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. This alters the serotonin levels in the brain, which are linked to depression and aggression. And when the drug is taken, the subject feels a more alpha male sense of confidence, and so it gives them kind of a boost in their social lives. And it's often taken for depression. But he notes that this is usually overprescribed, and typically overprescribed for women in the middle age area, because these women tend to have sort of an issue sometimes with confidence. And even if they don't have that much of an issue, it still kind of gives them a boost in their social life, which is why he thinks it's sometimes overprescribed. Secondly, there's the drug Ritalin, which he looked at, which is an ADD medication. And while there are many forms, he just specifically looks at this one. And here, of course, the main target is young boys who have kind of problems sitting in the classroom setting, calming down and relaxing. And so ADHD medication is taken to help children calm down and focus and pay attention more in the classroom setting. And so if you notice, there are two kind of sexes and two groups that are kind of targeted by these drugs. And what Fukuyama says about this is that together the two sexes are gently nudged toward that androgynous median personality, self-satisfied and socially compliant. That is the current politically correct outcome in American society. So this isn't your traditional idea of enhancement where somebody is stronger, faster, or smarter. But here we're seeing that we're kind of enhancing humans for the betterment of society. In this way, there's kind of a sense of compliancy here. We're making boys calm down and be more controlled. And then we're allowing women to have kind of a better sense of confidence and kind of help them relate to social standards. And so we're kind of making society conform to what we would like. But there are also different abuses with these drugs, not just in that sort of sense. There are some enhancements that are being used. Back to these ADD medications. They do help a lot with focus. And so they're tending to be abused in the workplace or in school. Specifically college is where they're seeing a lot of abuse. There are many different articles and anecdotal evidence about how college students are taking these drugs to help them pass exams or major tests that are coming up or when they have a big paper to do. Because what these drugs do is they allow hyper-focus for people, especially if you don't already have kind of a focus issue. It allows them typically to have much more focus and often helps them with sleep. So they may only need 5 hours of sleep and they'll still be fully rested instead of 8. So it allows them to study harder, faster, and longer, and far more efficiently. And we're seeing this abused because in a recent Al Jazeera America article, they found that in 2007, the number of patients between 20 and 39 who were prescribed with ADHD medication was 5.6 million. Just 4 years later, the number jumped 150% to 14 million. It's a staggering increase, and that's just prescribed medication by doctors. This does not include the abuse of children getting these drugs outside of prescription medication and using them for their own means. And so here we're seeing that common abuse. And while it's small, of course, studying more efficiently is extremely helpful, but it's not necessarily an extreme form of enhancement. It's still a leg up, and you can see how that would be different for those who are using drugs and then not using drugs. There is that difference. And then there's also what can be done in the future. There's a lot with robotics and brain chips that can be done in the future. BrainGate, a group at Brown University, is trying to bring neurological technology to humans. They've commercialized a wireless device that can be attached to the person's skull and transmits via radio wave thought commands collected to a brain implant. And right now that's being used for repair. So there are several videos online that you can go find of quadriplegics that have a brain chip that's actually hooked up by wires. It's not wireless yet. And they can actually control a robotic arm, and you can actually see them shake a reporter's hand. It's extremely impressive. The robotic arm is, of course, detached right now. However, you can see where that science is coming along the way. Eventually, the idea is to have robotic arms actually attached to the human being and to have these wireless brain chips. However, DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, is trying to take this to the next level with their Neural Engineering System Design Project, which set its goal to develop an implantable neural interface able to provide unprecedented signal resolution and data transfer bandwidth between the human brain and the digital world. And so what we're seeing is an actual connection of the human brain to the computer, basically, in essence, is what they're trying to do. Of course, it's currently being used for repair, but as DARPA is showing, they eventually want to use it for sort of a military technology. And so it could come into play in the next several decades that we have this ability, and then what are we going to be doing with it? However, there is a serious disparity with these technologies. It is very costly. To have any sort of implant put into you would be thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And to be constantly using drugs would be hundreds of dollars each month, and that just cannot happen for most people. Globalissues.org says 80% of the world lives on $10 a day or less. So it is impossible to kind of bring that technology to everybody. And so if it is ushered in, there's going to be a serious disparity. The second issue is that disparity tends to lead to a sort of dehumanization. Of course, in the last several decades, there's plenty of talk of fighting for people's rights and such. However, if you look at history, you can notice that there is a common sense of human superiority where someone believes they're above somebody else and they sort of take advantage in that way. And it's happened just in the last century. In the 1920s, it happened in America with the eugenics project. They actually labeled undesirables that they did not want to breed because they were trying to create sort of an alpha race through breeding. And they labeled these undesirables as feeble-minded, insane, criminalistic, epileptic, inebriate, diseased, blind, deaf, deformed, and dependent, and undesirables as including orphans, ne'er-do-wells, tramps, the homeless, and paupers. With these very definitions, in the United States, there were 64,000 forced sterilizations, which is crazy. That is an insane amount of people that have been forced sterilizations just because we had a definition and we believed that they should not procreate. Along similar lines, Hitler in Nazi Germany found a group of people that he did not want to be around. He targeted Jews, Poles, Russians, many sort of Eastern Europeans. But instead of just trying to control breeding, he actually tried to eliminate them through his concentration camps, which was a terrible atrocity to humankind. But if you look in both these cases, there was a group that thought that they were better. They thought that there was a breed of human being. They thought there was certain genes that made them better than somebody else. And they thought that they could use that power to wipe somebody out, either through breeding or by killings. But the issue here is that really in the end, why it was condemned was because we're all human beings in the end. Of course, there are some that are smarter, there are some that are stronger than others. But in the end, we're all still human. We all still have our strengths and weaknesses. And at the end of the day, there's not that much of a difference in overall groups. But the problem with transhumanism and enhancing human beings is that it actually gives a truth to dehumanization and sort of a fact to it. Because we're actually trying to create human beings that are better. We're actually giving a true definition. There would no longer be just kind of humans and some just think that they're better. We're trying to make humans that are better. And so if we do these horrible things where we force sterilizations or we kill people because we just kind of think we're better, what happens when we actually are better? I think terrible things can come about from such a thing. And then the third issue is that the post-human is unethical and incorrect. It's unethical, of course, because we're probably going to create this disparity, and with this disparity tends to come about a sort of dehumanization. But it's also incorrect because it seeks to fix something that may not necessarily be able to be fixed. Once again, looking at history, if you look back at all the improvements we've made through science, you can see that there's always unintended consequences that seem to follow. And while we may improve and we may fix one issue, once we fix one issue, it seems that plenty more issues open up. It seems that there's no way to escape problems in our world. Take the automobile, for example. It's a wonderful invention that's made the world a smaller place. We can now get places far quicker, and we can take things with us far easier. However, human evil is also transported far easier as well. Arms can be transported farther. Drugs can be transported further. It makes evil just as easily transported just as well as good. And so that's a serious issue. It's an unintended consequence that commonly comes about. Aldous Huxley sort of writes along these lines in his book, A Brave New World. It's a fictional story, of course, but it's a society that uses biotechnology much in the way that we might think to do. Is a little out there. It's kind of a dystopian society, even though they thought they were making a utopia. They controlled breeding with their science. They made everybody have their own sort of place in the system of society. And then they used a drug called Soma to help regulate it. And Soma was sort of like a Prozac in a way. It kind of gave confidence, but it was also kind of a psychotropic drug. It made people very happy. And so when they took it, they kind of forgot about the ills of the day, and it also helped them relax and such. And so with this constant drug use, it helped everybody in society feel very happy. They never really looked at where they were in society, and so since society was already set up, it functioned quite well. However, then you have the main character of the book saying, "But I don't want comfort, I want God. I want poetry, I want real danger, I want freedom, I want goodness, I want sin." Because what was happening here is that they weren't actually fixing any of the issues. They were merely covering up human issues, or almost taking away our humanity. If we couldn't fix the issues, then we just have to cover it up and make everybody think that everything's okay, is what was kind of happening. There's also the verse, 1 John 2:17, which says, "The world and its desires pass away, but the man who does the will of God lives forever." And so there is a sense that humanity is sinful, and no means of man is ever going to fix man, because there's just a hole there. And even if religion is not something that another believes, you can look back at history and see how there are plenty of unintended consequences. And we never really seem to fix any one problem. There's always something else. We may fix one problem, but then others come about. And so there's really no full fix for humanity in itself. And so in the end, you can see that there are two real roads for this. There is one that we continue to enhance. We try to implement these things. We try to make the brain chips work. We try to continue with these drugs and make them work better. And we try to put them out into society. But there's going to be that disparity, and that disparity is probably going to lead to a sort of dehumanization, because some humans are just going to be better, and there's no way to release it on a full scale. And then the second option is to do something kind of like Brave New World. David Pierce, a transhumanist, actually kind of believes in a sense a world like that. In his book, The Hedonist Imperative, he actually writes about using brain chemicals and drugs to manipulate them to make a better society. He wants to use dopamine, which is linked to the pleasure in the brain, and he also wants to use serotonin, which he calls the civilizing neurotransmitter. And so what this does is it kind of makes a society that's more socially compliant and happy where they are, very much like a soma. And so in this case, we're not really fixing any human issues, we're just covering them up. So you see these two fixes don't really fix anything. One of them just leads to unintended consequences, where we continue to have issues, and another one just takes away our humanity and sort of covers up the issues. And so in the end, there is really just no sort of fix for this. You can see the current abuse. You can see how it's already being used with drugs right now. Steroids have already been abused as well. There's a way that we can make ourselves physically and sort of mentally better than others in a very minute way, but you can still see how that gives you a leg up. And so what happens in the future when we actually have the ability to really do something like this? Then serious problems come about. And also there's the historical abuse. Clearly in history and even in today, you can see that there's a constant sense of human superiority, and we tend to take advantage of one another. And that's why such technologies can't be brought about. But also the wonderful thing about advancements is that they can be done outside of the human body. Medical science can still continue to go to improve lifespan. We can still advance ourselves with technology to improve the quality of life and make the world a better place. Of course, there will always be those unintended consequences. However, when the advancement is done outside the body, it's better for two reasons. One, we're not actually kind of giving fact to dehumanization. We're not making humans better than anybody else. No one is better than anybody else. We're all still kind of in our equal playing field, but we're all trying to raise each other up by making a better society with advancements outside the human body. And then two, we're not trying to fix something that doesn't seem to be able to be fixed. We can cover up its issues, or we can try to continue to advance and have unintended consequences, but there really is no fix, as we've seen through history. And I don't think that this time is going to be different. Transhumanism tends to be a little bit too optimistic about what could possibly come. And so in the end, science is a wonderful thing. It's led to many advancements, and it will continue to lead to many advancements. And I think that they should continue. And it can continue to help repair and aid people. Of course, we should be using drugs to help people with serious depression issues or serious attention issues. We should be using robotics to help give people back the use of their limbs that they've lost. However, to augment the human being should be outside the scope of science. Thank you.